Hey guys, Brian Stevens here with the National Real Estate Post. I have Steve Jacobson. He's the CEO of Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. I'm sure you guys have all heard of him before. We did a video yesterday and we were saying that Fairway was going to be purchased by CrossCountry Mortgage. I received a call from Steve's team and a number of Fairway loan officers, by the way, and emails saying that the information that we had was wrong. The information I received was from a number of sources and a couple of different publications out there. However, we pulled the video because we want to get this story straight. Especially if a company is not going through an acquisition right now, this could be very demonstrative to the company, and that is not our goal over here. And Steve, I just want to say this up front. Again, in my near 20 years of reporting on the mortgage industry, I haven't heard anything but positive feedback about Fairway. I've never had an axe to grind with you guys. In fact, everyone I know who's worked with you guys have always said something positive about you. And in this industry, that doesn't happen all the time. So with that said, how are you doing today? And how many of these type of conversations have you had to fend off in the past 48 hours?
We've had a few. Had a podcast with Robbie Christman and a couple different things internally just because of all the noise. But as you and I both know, there's always noise, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. And it's like anything, you want to get in front of whatever it is, because at the end of the day, you're trying to protect your team.
Okay, so just straightforward, are you in talks to be acquired right now by CrossCountry Mortgage?
We are not in talks with anyone to be acquired by anyone or merging. Now, I have had in the last 8 months, and having done this now almost 40 years, CEOs that are friends. There are CEOs I get along great with. It's not like anybody you can talk to is over payroll, right? And when you're a CEO, good, bad, right or wrong, big or small, you're over a payroll. So I do think it's fair to have those conversations you have with CEOs or communications to be respectfully private. So I do think that's important. However, merging, selling, it was supposed to happen yesterday. And other companies came out Friday, and there was a publication that went out that I could show a screenshot where I said, do not post that. It's not true. And it got posted anyhow. And that's really what started it. And really have been trying to diffuse stuff since then. And that's part of why I'm on this call with you.
Again, just to clear the air on everything here. So there was discussions of liquidity issues. That was complete and total fabrication.
What was said about liquidity to me is defamation. In the 27 years of Fairway, we've only had 2 years that were better than we are right now.
Wow.
And so when somebody's putting out in the market that we had 10,000 people, we got 3,500 people, which is not true. I mean, that's ridiculous. Making stuff up that isn't true isn't fair. And at the end of the day, it's a tough time for all mortgagees.
Yeah.
Just the way the industry is. But you don't have to, we got 5,600 teammates, not 3,500. That's a big difference. That's a paradigm. When you say there's liquidity, we do not have a liquidity issue. That's a big deal. And so to me, those are the things that I just like, where did this come from? And so, obviously try to get out in front of it as much as I can, because at the end of the day, any CEO, he or she wants to protect their team.
Right.
And at the end of the day, that's what we all, if I send CEOs or I said, what's your number one objective? He or she would say, protect what we have. And that's
so how do you see Fairway positioned in this market going forward? We've got tough times in front of us right now. Everybody are making strategic changes. Is there anything in your immediate future that you're doing that to kind of batten down the hatches and kind of ride this market out?
It's interesting, Brian, because I got the business in 1984 and rates were 14.5%. So if rates are close to 8, the rate thing doesn't really matter to me personally. I think the good news for originators personally is in the 80s, it's true, loan months were smaller. You had to close 30 plus or minus loans a month to justify doing it. In this market, we know if you close 7 to 15, you can have a heck of a life. So you don't have to be like crazy like we were in the 80s. I remember a month that I thought I had a pretty good month. I closed 58 loans. I walk into the establishment where we would celebrate our months. And a gal who's still in the business, Chris Lagerblade, closed 132 loans in Phoenix. You don't say much when somebody closes 132 loans and you close 58. The point is you don't have to do that stuff anymore, right? Now, keep in mind, now there's more competition than then, because then you didn't even know what anybody did because there was no internet, there was no nothing, right? And we didn't have this pent up 2%, 3% backlog of properties that are stuck at the 3% where nobody wants to move. We didn't have that even though we had double-digit interest rates. So different times, but to me, to answer your question specifically, it all depends on the day-to-day disciplines of the person. There are people in Fairway, and I'm sure at other companies that you mentioned, they're doing as good or better than last year. And if you ask all those people what they're doing stuff out in the market. And they're very disciplined, they're very consistent, they're hustling, they're going after it. And it's going to sound corny, but I remember this, you almost have to not listen to the really smart people, because the really smart people can scare you out of doing nothing. Inventory, rates, oh my gosh. You just got to kind of be like a rookie and go after it. You may have to work on the weekends, do open houses, do the things you got to do. But to me, the key for all of us mortgagees is the day-to-day disciplines of what you do each day. I mean, it's kind of like as an athlete, we're shooting the breeze about a buddy of mine before. Well, as an athlete, whatever your best day was at whatever sport you were in, you almost have to have that same mindset every day right now in the mortgage business. In 2020, 2019, 2021, the loans came to us. They just did, right? And a lot of money was made by people. All that was great. Now you got to go after and get it. Whether you're doing social media stuff or whatever, that's a part of it. But you got to go, and you got to go, and you got to do stuff. We got a gal in one of our states. She's on 14 nonprofit boards. Do you think she's not busy? She's busy.
Yep.
Turned 78 units so far this year. I bet she doesn't even know what's happened since last Friday. She's busy. So that's the point. The people that have the mindset of being busy, they're fine.
You know, I like what you said a moment ago, because I've said something very similar. I said, you know, you could be so smart that you'll talk yourself out of good decision. Like, that's what people who've been in this business too long. Sometimes you need the exuberance of a new loan officer who's willing to run their head into a brick wall enough times to see what's on the other side, because you can get so good and so smart with loans that you'll talk yourself out of best practices. And I think a lot of that's going on as loan officers are trying to transition right now. So I think this whole kind of getting back to the basics makes sense. But let me ask you this, since we're on the topic, there's going to be a lot of winners and losers. It is the game of musical chairs in the mortgage space right now. Do you think there's going to be a reduction of the number of mortgage companies that are in the game like a year from now? And what number do you see that looking like?
It's hard
without naming anybody. I don't want to get into that.
It's hard to say, Brian, because I think that, every year there's something in our industry that kind of jumps out at you. I mean, back in 2011, whatever that year was, when LO Comp changed, that's the only thing anybody want to talk about. What's your LO Comp? What are you going to do, right? And now it's been the repurchase issue with Fannie and Freddie. But if you do a lot of co-issue, good or bad, it's like Fannie and Freddie don't really want to buy loans. And any mortgage you dig into, and you kind of go past that first step, and you say, Steve, how do you know that? Well, you know it because you see all the servicing deals out there for people they want to buy servicing, because people are selling their servicing. Why? Because of cash. Why they need cash? Because of buybacks. For example, we just sold some for 150 million. That was 190 million worth of stuff. Well, that's 40 million. That's it, right? Well, if we had a liquidity issue, that would be a really big deal. Now, it's still a big deal. Nobody wants to lose $40 million. But the point is, there's always been buybacks forever. But if you look at the, trend analysis, all CEOs do that. They look at trends, right? You look at the trend of where it was and where it is, it's went the other way for all of us. I mean, the variable income thing that kind of started, rearing its head when, COVID started. Variable income is weird. I mean, can you count the overtime? Can you count the bonus? And you say, Steve, that's simplistic. Well, it's not simplistic when you're fighting with Fannie and Freddie. Yeah. I mean, and so to me, you ask the question, I'd say, well, we have to go inside their shop to see what's happening with that, and you'll get a pretty good idea of what's their cash like and how much their buybacks. Now, 18 months ago, we weren't thinking that. Even last way the year was, we weren't thinking about buybacks. Everybody's just trying to right size. And now it's like, well, if we went from 160,000 loan officers to 90,000, a lot of the people are starting to already roll. But now the companies are stuck with this repurchase risk. Yeah, and I think that's kind of the reason why the rumor mill is going about right now. It was kind of the implodometer from back in 2008 type of thing, like who's here and who's not there. The McCarthyism type of scare tactics going on right now. So I just want to be clear about this. Like right now, if you found a great team of loan officers right now, Fairway is actually looking at growing right now. We have interviews like we normally would. I mean, there are opportunities. I know people are scared in the market. Certain markets are better than others. I mean, certain MSAs are better than others. I mean, it's a weird thing, and when that pent up demand, the supply and demand, you got certain markets are doing fine, but certain markets, it's crazy. So you got to be market specific. I'm sure all the mortgagees are saying the same thing. And then the next thing, and this, if you were in the business back then, when you have high interest rates, perspective, 8%, 7.75%, back in the 80s, anywhere from 12.5% to 14.5%. What you learn as an originator, and that's my background, is nobody wants fixed rate. That's just that. You got to do, like David Stevens says, rent the rate. What does that mean? A 1-0 buy down. Now, if you had every loan officer that's listing, every mortgagee, every company that's competing with banks and credit unions, okay? If they were out showing agents how to use 1-0-2-1 buy downs, that's what you had to do, because in the 80s, out of 10 loans, you might have 7 buy downs. Why? Because they want a deal. Nobody wants a 13.5% fixed rate loan. Are you out of your mind? Nobody wants that. But 12.5%, where, hey, if the rates get better in the year, that effective rate is 13. I know that sounds corny, But that 1-0 buy down strategy for any mortgagee, I don't care who the company is, that's the kind of stuff we have to do. Does that make sense?
That actually makes perfect sense to me. Here's a question for you. Do you think if somebody's been in the business for 10 years or less, do you think they don't really understand how to actually sell loans?
Well, I mean, they haven't had to go do that. They haven't had to go do that. And to me, it's educating people. I mean, the thing is, I mean, for example, you take a small, you say, dude, where is that? I'm in California. It's not there. But let's just say it's in some of the places in Wisconsin. $300,000 sales price, and it hasn't sold yet for whatever reason, and they want to drop it to $290,000, that's $10,000. Or you show them that a 2-1 buy down, which costs roughly 2.65%, which isn't quite $10,000. It's not. So instead of going from $300,000 to $290,000, just offer a 2-1 buy down, others down payment, whatever. But as far as educating the agents, we know that every $1,000 you raise, lower that sales price, $10,000 on a loan is like $5-6 per thousand. That's $60 a month. In Wisconsin, my God, you walk into a bar, you'll spend that buying cocktails for your friends and a Tombstone pizza, or you can say Tombstone.
Or your fish fry.
That's right. But if you do a 2-1 buy down, that can save your payment a couple $100 a month. So those types of things that the last 10 years, the loan officer hasn't had to do. And even when this thing first started turning last year, when we started talking about the buy downs, even in Fairway, people say, are you crazy? What is that? You know, it's just what you have to do when rates are higher. You have to use buy downs, because people are freaking out. The rates went from this to this, and everybody thinks in 2024, maybe sometime they're going to get better. So that's where the buy downs work. It does not be deep. It just means they got a deal. A 1-0 buy down. If I was coaching every mortgagee, I'd say, use the 1-0 buy downs. Do it. Go educate the agents. Show them how it works. You can have an ad of paper. Now you got all the fancy stuff you can use, Mortgage Coach and all the different things. MBS High, there's so many materials that make it look great, but you can just do a line down, say A and B, and do it, and a Starbucks.
Yeah, you know, I'll tell you what. When I was writing loans back in the late 90s, it's my Gubby loans. It was, I would say 70% of them were 2-1 buy downs in ARMs. And it was commonplace, and the conversation amongst loan officers is, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the ARM or do you prefer the 2-1 buy down? And you can certainly make an argument for either one of them. What do you think the biggest challenge is facing the loan officer? Is it understanding product availability and how to sell these products right now? Is it getting out there more often? Like, what's the marching orders you guys are giving over there?
I honestly think, Brian, it's mindset. I know it sounds corny, but you got to get up there, and you know what got you there won't get you there. I mean, it's like, there's a lot of people been very successful having it come to them. Now they got to go get it. You know, even no matter how good your CRM is and how you use it, you still got to go meet new people, because the thing is, you got to expand your base. You know, it's originally, you have 8 to 15 good referral sources. What happens if the referral sources aren't as busy? You got to go find, you got to replace those. And that's not easy. It takes time, right? If it's 4 to 6 touches to start a relationship before people will work with you, and it takes giving value. You got to go do stuff that provides value. You got to drop open house flyers. If I ask 100 agents, do you want me to do open house flyers? They're all going to say no. You don't ask them, you just do it.
Yeah.
You give. Oh, here comes Steve again. Oh, I better give him a loan. I mean, you have to have, it's sales. You got to get out there. And the first time probably isn't going to work. Well, and the question is, what do you do after the first time? And they stonewall. They just, no, you got to do it again. And you got to do it again. And you got to do it again. Now, so you say, what's the challenge? That. It's a mindset of that originator. What is he or she willing to do? And so then every mortgagee, I'm sure everyone is doing the same. The challenge is challenging people every day to think the right way, to not get down. I mean, it's easy to get down. You just listen to stuff, right? I mean, the stuff, and oh my gosh, why am I doing this, right? But I mean, I think that's a challenge for all mortgagees. It's just the mindset of the originator.
I call it predictable behavior. It's really hard to have predictably good behavior. You know, you got to be on your game when you're in the game. And for a loan officer, you're always in the game, because oftentimes for us, like, the fabric of our social and personal life are so intertwined with our professional life that we just have to understand, when we wake up in the morning, we have to have that right mindset all the time. And these are much more difficult times. Is there anything that Fairway does internally right now, working with the loan officers to keep their mindset going in the right direction?
You know, we have a coaching company we started 6-7 years ago. We interview top people every week, and you know, so there's a day in the week that you can listen to this, and we average X amount of people on those calls. And we interview 2 weeks ago, we had the 169 and 170 unit person for the year to date. And to me, we go to sales thing just to get that one sliver of a thing that I can use. Now, I don't like to change much, because that's just how salespeople are. Don't tell us a lot of stuff, but just tell us enough that we can pick and choose what we want.
Right.
I don't want to do that. I can't do that, but I can do that. You know, so you kind of give people, you know, us salespeople, we have the same issue. Short attention spans, very emotional, and high maintenance. And that doesn't change in 40 years. So you better give us stuff every day or every week that can challenge us in how we think. And if we can do that, then we keep playing. Let's go.
So I got one for you real quick before we get off here. You've built a big, widely respected, national, recognizable brand. You've been at this for a long time. What's the secret to success? Can you distill it down to like a couple simple points, or is that just too complicated?
No, it's not. It's whatever we've done is old news. When somebody says you've done well, that's great, but it doesn't matter. You better bring it every day. I mean, you better not think you've done anything. Stay humble, stay curious, listen, stay curious. You know, what got us here isn't what is going to get us there. Just because, you know, we've had whatever means nothing. You better stay right to the ground and listen to people. What works, what doesn't work, you make to shift everything that you're doing. So what? Shift it. You know, nobody wants to be the Blockbuster Netflix. Nobody wants to be that company that, well, they didn't listen, right? Because I mean, that whole story is about not listening.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it is. They just didn't listen. So all of us mortgagees are the same. We got to listen. And you know, the challenge in our industry always has been salespeople know before corporate does. So you got to listen to the street. You know,
boy, that's a great point.
It's true.
That's a really great point.
People on salaries don't know what it's like to be on straight commission, and you can't put it in them. So you better listen to people on straight commission. You better listen to them because they're freaking out. And that freak out, you better listen, and you better, you know, get input before you make any decisions. So companies, all of us, all mortgagees, we have to listen to the street. It's important.
Listen, thank you so much for your time. This has been wonderful, Steve. I appreciate this. I appreciate the insights into your company. And by the way, if anybody on this call would like to reach out to Fairway to find out what they've got going on, because they have a lot going on, feel free to click one of the links around here. Reach out to these guys. They run a tight ship. I've known about them for a long time. Again, I've heard nothing but great news about them, and they are up and running, and they ain't going anywhere. You heard it here. Okay?
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.